Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of How to Draw Awesome Animals with your friends at Peppermint Narwhal. This is the video series where we teach how to draw animals in a fun and simple way while we share facts about the species as we go along. So since we're in October, or should I say Croctober, we've selected the American alligator as the animal that we're drawing today. Now, of course, crocodilians include crocodiles, but also alligators and caimans, and then also the gharial. So those are the three main crocodilian groups. So we're going to be excited to be drawing the American alligator today. As you can see, we've listed its common name, and below that you can see in the parentheses we have its scientific name, which again includes the genus and the species for this animal. And thankfully, the current conservation status for this, coming from the IUCN's Red List of Threatened Species, is least concern for extinction. So that's great. And that's actually a real success story, because at one point the American alligator was an endangered species, and we had to do a definite amount of conservation work to keep it around. And that's what we did, and there's a nice success story. So it shows that when we do the work, we can protect the species. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. As you can see here, I'm going to be using pencil and paper as the usual method that I like to draw with. We're going to need a lot of horizontal on our paper today because this is a long animal. So I'm going to make sure to start right here on the very left side to try to fit everything. So this is also going to be one of the more challenging drawings that we've done in the series. So bear with us here. I think everybody will be able to pull this one off successfully if you follow along. And again, I've got 3 dots on my page. If you're new to the page, I'm going to use 3 dots to show you how to draw a curved line using the middle dot as the arch of the curve. And then when we get to a simpler straight line, we'll just do 2 dots and connect them just like your typical connect the dots. So there's my 3 dots. You can see this sort of curve motion that I'll be starting off with. And we'll go ahead and get started here with this curved line. There we go. That looks pretty good. Okay, so right below this this dot right over here, we're going to use as our first dot, and then we're going to kind of put a couple more dots, and we're going to get another curved line. So we're going to be doing a lot of curved lines. When you're drawing animals, there's not a lot of rigid straight lines. If you were drawing more something machined or man-made, animals tend to be very organic, so you're going to do a lot of curved lines. So there we go. We've got couple curved lines out of the way. We'll keep going here. We'll go ahead and right about at this end dot here, we're going to just sort of put a dot here and a dot here. So there's our 3 dots again, and then we'll just sort of make a nice little curved line there. Okay, so from this dot here, we're going to keep picking up on that last dot and use that now as our origin dot. I'm going to put a dot here and a dot here. So there's 3 more dots, see them? And we'll just sort of connect them with a nice curving line. There we go. Okay, so again, we've got pick up where we left off. We'll add 2 more dots for another curving line. These are going to be pretty close together. And there we go. We've got that short little curving line there. All right, so the next line here, we'll pick up again where that dot left off. And there we go. We've got 2 more dots. And again, just another curving line there. And now from here, we're going to pick up again where we left off, put a dot here and a dot there. So there we go, we've got our 3 dots. And we're going to make another curved line. So we kind of got this nice little squiggly line looking direction that we've got. And that's actually going to be the top of our mouth. And if you look at an alligator, they got this sort of, jaw that sort of has these sort of different recesses. So we've kind of captured that there. Again, it'll start to come together as we continue along here. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do here is just where this sort of left off here, this last dot, we're going to put a simple sort of first straight line here. And we've got 2 dots now there, so we'll go ahead and just connect them like we do in the normal dot-to-dot books that we've all done at some point in our life. And now we're going to sort of make just another simple little bracket here. So from this dot here, we're just going to first put a dot up here. So we're just going to do another straight line just like that. And then we'll put a dot down at the bottom, and then we'll go back to this middle point here and connect that. So we've essentially made this sort of like almost like dimple smile or dimple curve there. That's going to be top of the mouth. So we like that sort of happy animal effect, so we'll add that little detail. Okay, so from right about here on going back into the line that we're drawing, we're going to sort of start a line curved line that's coming down here, pretty steep and gradual. So there's our 3 dots. We'll go ahead and start to bring those together there. There we go. And then from this point here, we're going to again kind of pick up where we left off. We'll put 2 more dots there. Looks like we're just going to kind of go up a little bit, bump up a little bit. There we go. And then from this point here, we'll go ahead and put a dot here and a dot here. So there's our 3 dots. And we'll just kind of curve that down. There we go. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. So now we're going to come back to this end dot here, and we're going to put a dot here and a dot here. So we've got 2 more dots that are there using the first one, that's 3. So we've got a nice curved line again, kind of bringing up, we're starting to put that mouth coming into focus here. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to, from this dot here, we're going to put a dot here and a dot here fairly close together. There we go. Just kind of rounding that off. And then from this end dot, we're going to pick it back up, put a dot here, and this time we're actually going to touch that top line with a dot, and then we'll get a nice curved line that just kind of brings that together. And now we've got this sort of nice open mouth. Again, you may not sort of see this all yet, but it'll start to come together in a little bit here. Coming back to this sort of back end of the open mouth here, we're going to put a dot right about here on the top line. We'll put a dot right about here in the middle, and then one over here. So you see those 3 dots, and we'll just kind of seam these together. There's a little bit of a fleshy area at the back of the mouth here as it's sort of, we're capturing that detail there. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a tongue inside of this mouth. And to do that, I'm going to start right kind of somewhere about here on the paper inside the mouth. I'm going to put a dot, put another dot, and there's my 3 dots. So inside the mouth I have the 3 dots. See those 3 dots there? And we'll just kind of connect those with a nice curving line. That looks pretty good. And then from this, we'll put a dot right about here, down below the line we just did, kind of towards the middle there. And then we're going to use that dot that we had over here, and then we'll put one kind of over here. So there we go. We've got this sort of 3 dots there, another curved line, and we'll just kind of take it back. Now we didn't bring it right to the edge there because we wanted to leave some room for drawing teeth, and that's what we're going to sort of do next. So for the teeth of the alligator, we're going to basically make, if we're doing them on the bottom row, the bottom jaw, we want them to sort of be like upside down V's. So I'll draw one here real quick. Just a simple rounded upside down V. You know, they have a little more rounded teeth. So we'll go ahead and capture that just like that. Okay, so now I'll repeat this process. I'm just going to kind of space them out. So I'm just drawing these sort of rounded V shapes here and there. There we go, there's another one. And we're just kind of repeating the process for this jaw of our alligator. And I'll put another one over here on this other side. So that looks pretty good. Now let's put some on the top jaw. This time they're going to be pointing downward, so they'll be like a traditional V. So there we go, got one there. Put another one there. Maybe another one here. Okay, and just sort of add a, you don't have to add too many teeth there. There we go. So that looks pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to darken this inside of the mouth, but I don't want to darken the teeth and I don't want to darken the tongue, but I'm actually going to draw one little detail in here. So you see this sort of line here that kind of matches up with the part of the jaw that goes to the back side here. We're actually going to kind of repeat that drawing just right below it. We're just kind of mirroring that line just like that, just to give it a little interior there. And then I'm going to use that to keep that all white. And then I'm going to keep the tongue white, and I'm going to keep the teeth white. So you can maybe just watch me do this, and it'll make a little more sense once you see the color transition here when I darken it. So there we go. So that inner line just kind of gives a little bit of extra, it sort of shows the volume of that shape there a little bit. And there we go, just kind of coloring this in pretty quickly here, just hatching in. Again, not coloring in the tongue and not coloring any of my teeth. And then I'll leave that fleshy area at the back that we had separated uncolored as well, because that wouldn't be dark. There we go. Okay, so that's starting to look like the mouth that we want. Again, maybe not quite see it yet, but you'll start to see it here in a little bit. Okay, so right over this portion of the mouth here, towards the back here, towards kind of the dimple smile, I'm going to put a dot here, put a dot here, and a dot here. So I've got 3 dots right over that, and we're just going to kind of make a nice curving line there. That's just going to give us a little bit of frame of reference to then put in the eyeball. So we're going to go ahead and put the eyeball in as an oval, kind of right about here. So there we go. I've got this sort of oval that I'm drawing. And I'm going to color in almost all of it, except I'm going to leave a little bit of an inner oval or an inner circle there that I'm not going to color in. And that's going to give us the nice sort of, the white of the paper will become the highlight of the eye there. So that looks pretty good. Okay, so there we go. I'm just going to kind of continue this line just a little bit. There we go. All right, so that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to come over to this front portion of the snout, and we're going to put 2 nostrils in, and we're just going to do those like kind of like leaning ovals. One's leaning towards the right, and the other one's kind of leaning towards the left. So there you go. You can kind of see those there. All right, that's looking pretty good. We'll go ahead and continue along here. We're going to, right about at this tip of the nose here, a little bit tucked in here, we're going to put a dot, and then we're going to sort of put a dot right about here, and another one maybe right about there. So there we go, got 2 dots there, and we're just going to sort of connect those just gradually there. Subtle curve there. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then around our eye here, this first eye, this eye that we did here, we're going to put a dot here, and a dot here. So there we go, we've got 3 dots around the eye, and we're just going to kind of make a nice curved line. And then from the tip of this, we'll pick up where we left off, put 2 more dots here. And there we go, kind of captured that. The eyes of the alligator, they have this sort of raised eyes and raised nostril, so that helps them in when they are swimming in the water. Basically allows them to hide almost their entire body, including almost all of their head, except the nostrils can stay above and the eyes can stay above. And that allows them to breathe and see without really anyone noticing them. And that's a great way for an ambush predator to move about the water of either a river or a lake. Or a swamp. Okay, so that looks pretty good. We'll go ahead and from this dot here that we left off with on the bridge of the nose, we're going to go ahead and put a dot here and a dot here, and we'll just kind of bring that up there. That looks pretty good. Now we'll go ahead and we're going to show the other raised eye here, but this one's going to be kind of facing the other direction, so we're just going to show that a raised notch. So to do that, we're going to put a dot here, and a dot there. And there's another curved line. And then from this top dot, we're just going to put a dot right here on the actual bridge of the nose and just draw a straight line, kind of bringing that down. So that looks pretty good. Okay, so next thing we're going to do here with this alligator is we're going to sort of add a little detail here. I'm just going to take this nose nostril port and just extend it a little bit with a little bit of an extra curve there. So that looks pretty good. And then from the top of the bridge of the snout, we're going to go ahead and put a dot on there, put a dot there, and a dot there. There we go, got 3 dots. I'll just kind of make a nice curving line. And I'm just going to add one more. Now that you sort of see that, you can use that same sort of line as a reference. Just make another kind of curving line at the top of the mouth there, or top of the snout. That looks pretty good. Okay, so right behind the eye, there's an actual kind of notch. So we'll go ahead and capture that here. We got 3 dots just right behind the eye, making a curved line. That looks pretty good. And then we'll put a dot right below that one. We'll pick up where we left off with a straight line. That looks pretty good. And then from this dot, we'll pick up where we left off and put a dot in the middle, and then one back to this end of the eye notch, and then make another nice curving line. And it's going to start to give us that extra notch that you see right on the behind the eye. Okay, so we're looking pretty good here. I'm going to come back to now the bottom of the mouth here, and I'm going to put a dot about right here, a dot right about here, and a dot right about there. And then we'll just kind of make a nice rounding curve line there, starting to capture the bottom of the jaw. And then I'll put just about a dot maybe right here and a dot right there. So I got 3 more dots picking up where we left off there. And there we go, got another curving line there, sort of around that bottom of the jaw off. Now I'm actually going to come back, tuck into this middle dot, and not the end dot. I'm going to tuck into this middle dot and use that as the new origin dot. And I'm actually going to just sort of draw a dot right about here, and that's just going to be a nice straight line. So there we go, that looks pretty good. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is from this dot here, I'm going to put a dot up here and a dot up here. And we'll just kind of work our way with a nice curving line there. There we go. So we got our head of our alligator looking pretty good. Okay, so, and you can see here from the alligator, it's got more of a rounded snout. That's definitely one of the traits that an alligator would have versus, say, a crocodile. So caimans and alligators have much more sort of rounded, bulkier, blunted sort of snouts, whereas a crocodile, or even a gharial has a very long, pointier snout, especially the gharial is in a unique group all its own where it's very, very long and pointy. All right, so let's go ahead and put a little bit of neck on this guy. So put a dot here, a dot here, and a dot here. And there we go, got 3 dots. And I'll just kind of bring that down just like that. Looks pretty good. Okay, so now we're going to start this big body movement. So we're going to put a dot. We're going to pick up where we left off with that dot, put a dot here, and a dot here. So there we go, we got sort of 3 dots there. Put a nice curving line. This is one of our bigger curving lines of the drawing. So you might want to go back and forth a little bit lightly at first and then true it out. So there we go. That looks pretty good. Okay, so as we're coming back to the back side here, we're going to I gotta watch we make this thing all fit here on this page. So I'm gonna put 2 more dots, and we're gonna kind of use those 2 dots and pick up with this end dot here. So there's our 3. I'm gonna make another curving line here. And again, I'm gonna go a little slower because this is a bigger, longer one there. So there we go, we've got that curving line there. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, from this point here, I'm going to use that as the origin point now and put a dot over here and a dot over here. And there we go. So we've got 3 dots here, another sort of curved line. Again, you can kind of go either direction on this. I'm going to this time kind of go from this way to that one and bring that back. Looks like a little undershot it there, so I'm just going to kind of take that down just like that. That looks fine. And that's what I like about the pencil. You can always kind of make a quick correction as you sort of go. I mean, a lot of when you're doing a sketch is you're sort of feeling things out. You draw lightly, keep drawing, and then eventually darken as you sort of figure things out. So in this method, I'm just trying to show you how to kind of confront the paper from a blank standpoint, but don't be afraid to, sort of improvise and get your own techniques down as we go along. Okay, so again, we've got the tail starting here. So I'm going to use this end dot here, this dot here, and this dot here. So there's 3 more dots, a little bit of curving line. And then from this end dot here, I'm going to put a dot here and a dot there. And we'll just kind of curve that back. That's going to give us that nice tip of the tail. And now we're going to start to see the girth of this tail by picking up where we left off there. Put a dot here and another dot here. And again, a nice longer curved line. So there we go. All right, so now that we've got, we're going to use this dot up here, use this dot down here, and we'll put a dot in the middle, and we'll just kind of bring those together in a nice curving line. So it's starting to look pretty alligator-like here. We'll come back to the back side of the tail here. We're going to come back to the front side here, and right about under the chin now, we're going to put a dot here and a dot here. So there we go. And then we got this nice curving line. One of the things about this animal, sometimes you'll see the American alligator listed as the largest reptile in North America. That's somewhat arguable. There's also another large crocodile, the North American crocodile, which is also found in a similar sort of range to where the American alligator is. It's much less common, but it's also, as males, both of the species get fairly big, and both, depending on what sources you find, might list one or the other as the biggest, but they're both pretty big animals and on the larger crocodilian side. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and continue by sort of putting in our first foot. And to do that, we're going to sort of put a dot up here, a dot up here, and a dot over here. So there's 3 dots, and we'll go ahead and bring those down just like this. Now, again, one of the things that a alligator or any of the crocodilians sort of have is something called indeterminate growth. So they can really get as big as they need to be depending on the opportunity for either food or resources. So again, as long as it's safe, healthy, and can get a lot of food, they can just keep growing, and the older they get, the bigger they can get. So I've got 3 more dots here. We'll just sort of make a nice curving line there to sort of bring this back for the front foot. And then we're going to sort of, basically from this dot here, we're going to put a couple dots kind of close together, and we'll start to make that foot kind of come down there. So if I'm going to go back up to this area here, I'm going to put a dot here, and a dot here, and we'll start to get the top of this foot. It may not look like much yet, but it'll start to come together pretty quickly. So there we go, we've got just that. I'm going to come back to the toes in a little bit, but I'm going to sort of put a dot up here, a dot over here, and a dot over here. So there's my 3 dots. See the curved line we're going to make there? There we go. Now, alligators are going to be found in sort of freshwater areas. We'll put a dot up here, and we'll put this dot here. We'll just make it a simple straight line. So there we go. So we got this sort of, foot kind of tucked under there. These guys like fresh water. Typically, that's where you're going to find them. They will be found in lakes, rivers, streams, swampy areas, wetlands. So that's kind of their home area. Whereas crocodiles tend to be a little more adapted for saltwater tolerance, where the alligators will definitely prefer more of the fresh water. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start to put some toes on this foot here. So to do that, I'm going to put a dot. I'm going to reinforce this dot here that we're going to use as a starting point. Put a dot out there, and then I'll just kind of make it a simple little straight line there. And then from this straight line, we'll put a dot over here, and we'll just make another kind of simple little straight line. And then we're just going to kind of make these sort of pointy toes here, just using simple straight lines. So I'll always be kind of picking up where I left off with the last one. This one we're going to go a little bit further. So there we go. Put a dot there. And this other one will go a little, not too far, but a little further out than the other. Oops, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So first this line, and then I got a little ahead. And then finally we're going to have this little stumpier toe here. So there we go, we got connect that. And then since I've already kind of see where I'm going to end it, exactly that, just like that. Okay, so now we're going to, over here, I'm just going to sort of seam this up with a little bit of a curved line here. Just tuck that under there, that looks fine. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is I'm going to start putting on the back leg here. And to do the back leg, we're going to put a curve here, a dot here, make another curved line. This is going to be they have a bigger back leg than their front leg. And there we go, we've got this nice curved line here. And we'll start that just like that. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And then we're going to put 2 dots just sort of right about there, pretty close, and pick up where we left off, and then just kind of round that down. Okay, so then I'm going to come back to just below this. I'm going to put a dot here and a dot here, and I'm going to kind of do a straight line. So there we go. And then from the end of the straight line, I'll put 2 dots here. I'll just kind of round that out. And this is going to kind of be the start of our foot here. And you'll see what's going to happen is sort of a folded up back leg here, but you'll see that in a minute. We need to add some more details here. So to do this, pick up on this side of the dot here, we're going to just put another dot in there and just simple straight line there, tuck that in. So that looks pretty good. So now right about where this, just below what's going to really be kind of like the knee here, we're going to sort of reinforce a dot there, and then I'll put a dot out here. I'll just kind of make a simple little straight line there. And then I'll put a dot maybe right about there, and we'll just kind of pick that up. And then again, we're going to basically kind of make some of these pointier toes here. So there we go. There we go. Just more points, kind of picking up where we left off with the last one. And there we go. And then again, a little ending foot, and then bring it back together. So there we go. We got this nice sort of foot here. So coming off this back side here of the heel of the foot, we'll go ahead and use that dot, and then we'll put a dot here and a dot here. So we got 3 dots there. I'm just gonna make a nice curving line, just sort of show that different bone structure there. So you'd have, you know, this animal can stand up and walk around, but right now he's just kind of doing what you see a lot of times with gators, where they're sort of lying on the bank, just sunning themselves. And remember, these animals are reptiles, so they're, you know, cold-blooded, so they need to sometimes charge up. If on a cooler day, they need to really get that sun to get their body temperature up. So I've got 3 dots here. They're a little hard to see, one on each of the different legs, one towards the back of the front leg and one towards the front of the back leg. So there we go, just sort of making the belly of this animal. So you'll sometimes see alligators sunning themselves to sort of warm themselves up, warm their body. And that's a form of, you know, how they're going to, you know, charge their body temperature. But sometimes in the Florida sun, you know, not that they're only found in Florida, but, you know, you certainly find gators a lot in Florida. I'm going to put 3 dots here and then keep telling you about that fact. So gators sometimes will be in a hot climate. You know, they prefer the warmer climates. So sometimes they're very hot. So what you'll see is when you see a gator, sometimes on the side of the bank of a river or lake, and he's got his mouth open, what he's oftentimes doing there is cooling himself. The more the mouth is open, the cooler the body can be. So if the body gets too warm, they can open their mouth and stay on the bank for a while and try to get rid of some of that excess heat. Okay, so this looks pretty good. We got a nice looking gator body here. I'm going to do some final details pretty quickly here. So we're going to sort of take this neck and back and just mirror the drawing that we did, but just slightly below it. So just like this, you can see here I'm just watching that line above and just kind of copying below it. And I'm just sort of hatching my way there because this one's pretty long. So that looks pretty good. And then when I get down to the tail, I'm going to sort of do the same thing, but this time I'm going to sort of aim more at this point as they kind of come together. So I'm slowly tapering it towards that end point. And there we go. So we've got these nice dots now, or these nice 2 lines. So what I'm going to do now is, again, kind of speed up rather than do them with points, is take way too long. We're going to add these sort of V-shape notches. There we go. So I can just slightly round them. But you can see here, I'm just sort of going to go up, down, and continuing that along. And that's just going to give these little scoots the little details that we have here on our alligator. So I'm really running the whole length of the neck, the body, and then back down to the tail. And this second line that I did, we're going to repeat that process. So again, just sort of add these guys in here. And you can't really get this wrong, just sort of up, down, little rounded hills, and continue the process as you get down to here. Now, when it gets to this point, they actually become, these sort of notches actually then focus on just becoming one. So we're actually going to do the same thing around this part of the tail here. So you just sort of start off with them going this direction. And as they get to the back of the tail, they get a little bigger and a little more pointier. So you can see I'm exaggerating them a little bit towards the end there. So there we go. And that's typically what you'd see on an alligator. So, okay, we've got this gator pretty much done. We're going to go ahead and put a dot here and a dot here. And we're going to use this armpit dot. And we're just going to kind of make a nice curving line there. And then about here on the actual elbow sort of area, we'll use that point, put a dot here. And it looks like we got a nice point up here on the back of the leg. So we'll just kind of continue that just like that. And then coming off the back leg, we'll put a dot here, and we'll put a dot here and a dot here. And we'll just kind of take up a little bit of a curve. And now from that dot, I'm going to put a dot here and a dot over here on the tail and kind of bring that back down, curving back to the back of the tail. Now, what I'm going to do here is similar to what we did here on the bridge of the snout. Just kind of making these curved lines going this direction here. And we're just kind of adding them as sort of like, you know, little bridges there. So there we go. Just sort of filling in all that. Okay, so we're pretty much got our alligator done, and he looks really good. We got that nice rounded snout. We captured some of the key gator features, that sort of, you know, definite gator smile that you sort of sometimes see people describe. So we'll go ahead and add just some little rounded rectangles here. This is, again, a little just detail. If you really look at the gator pattern, he sort of has these different sort of scales. And I'm going to add some color to some of them, darken some of them. Some of them I'm going to leave just uncolored. And then if you would look at a gator, you would kind of see these sort of, different scales sometimes have a little bit of darker color to them. Some of them have lighter colors to them. So it just kind of captures that little bit of detail. And again, you can just randomize these. They're just rounded rectangles that are kind of going along the body. Some I'll do a little closer together. Some I'll do a little further apart. Just enough to sort of add a little bit of detail. Can't really get this wrong. And again, like I said, I'm going to color in some of those or just make some darker rectangles here and there just to sort of capture that kind of gator quality that you would see. And that's one of the things when people, when this alligator was an endangered species, back when I was a young boy, they were having a lot of problems. Gators were on the Endangered Species Act and their numbers were plummeting. And that was because of this really nice patterning that you see on the gator, and their leathery skin made them very popular for everything from handbags to belts to you name it, pants even. So that was over harvesting, started to really drop the numbers. That along with pollution from specifically like DDT getting into the water. There was a chemical that was being used that was not yet realized as a real problem for the environment. Eventually that chemical was weeded out and no longer used, so that helped. And then putting the animal on the Endangered Species Protection Act really sort of allowed this gator to come back. I'm just going to make some nice curving lines matching up these backside notches that I have here. So yeah, by protecting an animal and taking away some of the strains that we have that we're putting on them, and again, most of the time, a lot of endangered animals or threatened animals, the problems are coming from us, things that we are doing in the environment or to that animal directly. So if you take those strains off, a lot of times the animals will recover nicely. And as we've seen that with the American alligator. So it went from being an endangered animal to now least concern. So that's great. So we can definitely make a difference when we do the work in conservation, and that's why it's so important. So again, here's our drawing completed. We had a lot of fun creating it with you. We'd love to see how yours turned out. Again, you can share that with us using the hashtag MintySketch. And if you need your parents' help, please do so. Sorry for the length of this video. It definitely was a lot more complex drawing to do today, but I'm glad we got through it, and we'd love to see again how yours turned out. All right, so that's it. If you like this video, please give it a like, and if you'd like to subscribe to the channel for future videos, we welcome you to do that. You'll get the first updates as well. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you back here on a future episode of How to Draw Awesome Animals with your friends at Peppermint Narwhal.